This is Brevard Watch, the news experience focused exclusively on Florida's Space Coast. I'm Matt Reed. Today's program is brought to you by the Partners in Education program at Brevard Public Schools. Coming up, we break down and explain the City of Melbourne's compromise on the Confederate flag, Titusville's economic rebound, Brevard Public Schools' lawsuit against a software contractor, and another delay by Brevard County in allowing medical marijuana dispensaries. Also this hour, a one-on-one interview with Cocoa Beach Mayor Ben Malik. Our goal here always is to bring a variety of Brevard County experts to help you see how government, education, business, and the law affect your life right here in Central Florida. Their opinions are not necessarily those of Brevard Public Schools or BPS TV. Joining me on Brevard Watch today, two veterans of Brevard County news and issues. Bill Mick is host of the top-rated radio talk show Bill Mick Live on WMMB 1240 AM. Listen for him too on iHeartRadio. Rob Landers is a senior editor at Florida Today, where he also serves as host of the weekly Eye on Brevard program on WEFS TV. This is Brevard Watch, the news experience focused exclusively on Florida's Space Coast. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us in the BPS studio. Let's talk about a story going on in Melbourne with the Confederate flag. Looks like they might have reached a compromise regarding their parades. City Council voted, I think it was pretty close, 4-3, to not fund parades through downtown anymore. I think it was only about $2,000 per parade, because they might have the Confederate flag on display and they don't want to be seen as endorsing it. Is that the right compromise? Let's start with Bill.
It's the right fiscal thing to do. I like the move by council to, in what appears to be tough budget times coming for them, to eliminate these expenditures. And while the 4th of July parade and the, Memorial Day or Veterans Day parade was like $2,000 per, the Melbourne Light Parade cost them another $7,000. So that's not a lot of money when you talk government budgets, but on the other hand, if you're going to start being fiscally responsible, the idea is don't spend money you don't need to spend on things you shouldn't be spending it on in the first place. There are ample opportunities for people like, maybe the mayor who was in favor of this. What's the Thanksgiving Day parade everybody watches? Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. Meehan's Melbourne Light Parade. There you go. There's bring the money, Mayor. Put your money where your vote is. Let's do that.
I want to see a couple of big inflatables for Brevard County with that. Rob, what do you think?
Well, $7,000 is a lot for a parade. For the city to expend on the parade, especially when you have a road like Babcock Street that is in the condition it's in. I think it's a good move for the city. The nonprofits, the Confederate flag withstanding, the nonprofits could probably do a better job of vetting the people they're letting into their parades as well. The only flag from the Confederacy that really matters is the white flag of surrender. So I'm kind of glad that Melbourne is at least taking steps to eliminate the flag from parades and, making sure that people don't get their feelers hurt.
Why was it not the blow up this time with people driving their big trucks down 192, cramming into the council chambers to stand up for the flag, or vice versa?
This meeting happened preemptively. This motion was made before the September 14th planned protest by the anti-Confederate flag folks. And as much as I like my buddy Rob, that flag is a part of American history, not just the Confederacy. Those states were reintegrated into the United States, and the fabric of our country is not always pretty. There are nits and picks in it, and it's part of the history. And if we don't keep it and learn from it, we've got a problem coming again, and we're starting to see it as these rabble-rousers start coming in saying, we want to eliminate this. Look at what they're doing, desecrating statues across the country right now. And again, not all of our history is pretty, but it's history we've learned from, and we came out a better country because of it. Let's not forget that and those people who fought there.
And I will say that my good friend Bill Mick is absolutely right, that it is part of our history. And I used to take field trips when I was in elementary school to museums where I learned a lot about history, which is where those artifacts and relics from the past that were symbols that represented oppression of a great number of people, that's where they belong, in a museum. They don't belong flying in a parade celebrating our independence or celebrating the holiday season. They belong in a museum.
I agree on the holiday season part. There's a purpose for that. We call it Christmas, and let's have a Christmas parade. We'll go with that. But are we going to eliminate Gettysburg? Are we going to eliminate other centers of remembrances of the Civil War? You go to Gettysburg, you can buy Union hats, you can buy Confederate hats, you can buy the uniforms, you can buy the memorabilia, and we remember that history because it made us who we are. That flag that the sons of Confederate veterans are carrying down, you don't like the flag, turn your back. Walk into the office supply store and buy your ink pen supply for the next week, or go into one of the restaurants or pubs and have yourself a drink while that part is happening. There's nothing wrong with that flag being presented. This was not the issue. This issue is people trying to elevate one element of society over another, and I'm glad City Council thwarted it by saying, look, we're just not going to fund any parades. Now, the last time that happened, it was the Puerto Rican Day Parade in Palm Bay, and the United Third Reich decided they were going to sue the city of Palm Bay to get their money so they could fly the Puerto Rican parade and have that event, because they were entitled to city money somehow. Yet the wife of the founder of United Third Reich has decided we need to eliminate parades. Okay, let's go with that. Eliminate them all.
For the benefit of our viewers who don't know, United Third Bridge is the organization that stands up for
like I said,
Puerto Rican history.
Yeah.
Well, Teresa Lopez is the one that introduced this measure, I believe, and
No, Paul Alfrey did.
Paul Alfrey
did vote for it, though. She tried to introduce it a couple years ago.
I think the thing about flags is that the symbol means something different in the eye of the beholder. And I think with this symbol, it's very, very clear that there are some people who believe that it stands for just rebellion and part of, being a Southerner, and there are other people who see it as part of the actual history of the Confederate States and slavery and a war to defend slavery. As long as a significant portion of your taxpayers are people who see it that way, as it's an offensive racist symbol and slavery, you probably should not spend public dollars on something that represents them as well. So compromise seemed like it was important to try to achieve here.
Correct.
I like it from the fiscal side. By the way, time for the red bars to come off the Florida flag then. Let's talk that.
Let's move on.
Let's talk that. Let's talk that. I mean, seriously, Bill, you and I have known each other for several years.
Sure.
And have done shows with Matt in the past.
Yeah.
I know that you are West by God, Virginia through and through. Yeah. What you may not know about me is I grew up in Mississippi. I grew up in Columbus, Mississippi, where both northern and southern soldiers were tended to their medical needs were tended to, which is why the antebellum homes in Columbus, Mississippi still stand. They didn't bomb that city. I grew up in a high school where the Confederate was our school mascot. The stars and bars have been part of my life since I was 2 years old. It's time for them to go in a museum. It is. It's time for them to go in a museum. And you can't tell me that you honestly cannot tell me that you don't understand the venom and the hate towards that flag when the venom and the hate from that flag is so blatantly displayed in places like Charlottesville, like it was 2 weeks ago, alongside the Nazi flag.
I'm not responsible for how those people perceive it.
You're not responsible for how it's perceived, but you are the one who just sat here and called United Third Bridge the United Third Reich.
Sure. What are they trying to do? Impose their will on everyone else. Nobody imposing their will by carrying a flag down that remembers the history of this country.
This is a bitter issue, and I think it's going to continue to be.
We're going to have so much fun.
We are.
Melbourne City Council has gotten out of it, at least for now. Let's move on to another issue. Satellite Beach. Dateline, DeSoto Parkway. We've got what looks like a $7 to $8 million, 60,000 square foot, multi-use, solar-powered, fantastic thing pitched for the spot that has been sitting vacant for years, owned by the CRA, open for development. It used to be the site of Peg Legs, an old fish restaurant that has been closed as long as I've lived in Brevard County. It's going to have a 100,000 watt array of solar panels to power this thing, 25-room boutique hotel, 9 residential condos on the 3rd floor, higher-end chain restaurant, and of course, an electric vehicle charging station for your, I guess, your Tesla or your Chevy Volt. It has a preliminary approval from an advisory board. It hasn't gone to the city council for final approval yet. Your take, right place, right time? Let's start with Rob.
You know what? I'm all for the whole environmental protection of Satellite Beach and finding renewable energy sources to power places in the city, I don't think that it's the right place. The last hotel that I remember opening beachside between Pineda and O'Galley is now in America's Best Value. I don't know that people are looking for a hotel in Satellite Beach. So while it's a great concept, I think they might have a really hard time finding a brand to put on that particular boutique hotel.
Boutique. I mean, I would love to have a place for my parents to stay, but I hear the room rates at this might be like $200-300 a night.
Right, and why would
so
you do
keep
that?
playing Powerball.
Why would you do that instead of renting a condo on the beach for them? This is across the street from the beach. It's a highly trafficked area that's not easy to get across the street, and I will say I do miss peg legs. When I was 7 years old, it was the first place I had ever had rock shrimp. And so going to Dixie Crossroads in Titusville last week, it was like a little bit of my childhood coming back and thinking back on peg legs. But yeah, I don't think that's the right place.
I moved here in 2001 and has only ever been an abandoned, haunted old building until it got torn down.
Well, before it was that abandoned old building, it was Zuzu's, and I believe the last health report I saw on that one was that there was a dead seagull in the stove vent. So
all right, so Tesla charging station, definitely a step up from that.
Right.
Bill, the fact that this property is owned by the CRA. There are a lot of people in Satellite Beach who think it'd be better to put a park there. Your take?
How many parks are there in Satellite Beach? We both lived in that region for a long time. Yeah, that seems like a waste.
It's about 40%, I think, of the beachfront property in Satellite has been preserved as, with public land.
For a city that thoroughly believes that in 50 years it won't be there because it will be engulfed by the ocean and the city won't be there because the global warming is going to swallow the whole island, why put this investment into this? You know what? It's a nice, unique idea. If a private investor wants to do it, okay. Is he buying the property from the CRA?
Buying it, yes.
Okay, that's a plus for the city. They shouldn't be owning the property in the first place. But it seems to me, like Rob said, this is a high-end development looking in the low-end part of town as far as the beach goes. When you can drive down the street for $125, spend a night on the beach itself rather than across the street and have to dodge all of those vehicles on A1A, not the smartest of moves I've seen, and I agree. I think they'll have trouble finding somebody to be the nameplate for this hotel.
This really kind of screams to me like this would be better suited for like a downtown Melbourne kind of thing, where you're younger, hip people that are more energy conscious and are going to be paying attention to those kind of things, and are paying attention to the details of, oh, it's a boutique hotel and it's solar powered, and we're not going to be wasting fossil fuels by leaving the lights on in this building. It screams downtown Melbourne and the groundswell kind of feeling than Satellite Beach.
It does, and downtown Melbourne's in considering a hotel development behind Meg's, right, which maybe something like this combined with that would be a good thing. But in Satellite Beach, number one, they're not a business-friendly community. Number two, they're not a tourist-friendly community. What are you going to do other than walk to get ice cream or some food somewhere, or go play on the beach? And there's nothing touristy there. Would be great when my parents would come down and visit. Would be a nice place. They're not going to fork $300 a night, and if they can, they're coming to town, they can stay at my place. So,
well, as a resident of Satellite Beach and a taxpayer, I'd like to just see them sell that property for something that is going to be privately developed, and I hope it works. Absolutely. I just
what I would hope is that they would sell it to someone who is going to develop something that's going to last and be successful, and bring people to the community. I'm not sure that a $300 a night boutique hotel that their main selling point is that they're powered by the sun is really the...
Well, that way you can see if the environmentalists really get behind what they say. Let them come.
Well, at least it's a real thing. They want to pitch something, they want to build it. That's better, and it gets more done if they do it than just saying that your city's committed to reducing its carbon footprint, yada, yada. Right. Let's move on to this issue of moratoriums on medical marijuana dispensaries. Brevard County Commissioners voted 4-1 to extend their moratoriums. Several cities have done this as well. West Melbourne and a couple of others places are like, bring it on. Let's move on. But we have to figure out some new laws with the state. Christina Znardi said, she was the dissenter with the county commission, said, the voters approved this. We're not talking about a bunch of drug houses or a bunch of places where people are going to be smoking pot. These are dispensaries, so I'm not okay with a moratorium because I think we're denying access. Other people are concerned that you might have these dispensaries near schools, near churches. What's so hard about this, Bill?
Interesting, the only nurse on the county commission is the one who would vote yes for the marijuana side. And I told Christine I was going to give her a hard time about that. I haven't had a chance to address it on my show yet. The idea is the legislature has not been very clear. Right now, you give basically blanket permission or you withhold permission for these things to go in your jurisdiction. This is only impacting the non-incorporated areas of Brevard County with the county commission vote. And right now, the way the zoning is, anywhere a Rite Aid or other pharmacy can be, a medical marijuana facility could be there as well. And while we are not talking about pot shops, yes we are. I lived in California for 2 years and I saw medical marijuana dispensaries selling cocaine and heroin out the back door. And I saw kids talking to my kids saying, dude, you should go to the doctor and tell them that you've got migraines or something. You can have a free pot card and you can get it all the time. No, this has never been about medical marijuana. This has been about smoke and dope, else John Morgan wouldn't be threatening to sue the state over adding smoking to the marijuana that they've said they will allow based on the amendment that he crafted. If you're a lawyer and you're crafting this amendment and you didn't include smoking in it, did you think the legislature was going to ignore that? Come on, this is about dope. That's what it's about.
Rob?
Okay, so first of all, I want to know where the county commission was years ago so that we wouldn't have pharmacies popping up on every corner in this county, because that's basically what they're saying, is they want to stop the zoning that is pharmacies and dispensaries from being in certain areas of unincorporated Brevard County. Okay, well, where were you when CVS and every Eckerd's and every Walgreens decided they wanted to open up on every street corner in this county? I mean, seriously. Secondly, I'm going to go ahead and say it. It really feels like we're trying to delay the inevitable, which is the Florida voters said, yes, we want medical marijuana, we want this passed, and now it's like, okay, well, we're going to give it to you, but not right now. And I also have to, I have to give a shout out to John Tobiah, who played the card really well. Not this is going to be near schools and not this is going to be near churches, but this is going to be near your church. This is going to be near your church where you work, and this is going to be near your house, fellow county commissioner. Not we need to worry about the residents of Brevard County and unincorporated Brevard County, but I'm going to play directly to the people who are going to vote on this. You who works in this church, you who lives in this house in this area. So good job, John. You got to pass.
Again, the regulation part of this, though, is too wide open from the state. They need to craft regulations, zoning regulations, that do keep it in areas where it belongs, a business area somewhere, as opposed to in any neighborhood.
And I don't disagree with Bill on that. I think that it absolutely needs to happen. I just feel like everyone is dragging their feet on this to slow the process down.
Well, part of that's the legislature's fault because they took too much time to put anything together.
When we come back, an interview with Cocoa Beach Mayor Ben Malik, a question of whether Titusville is back economically, and a controversy over the name of the airport in Melbourne.
Hi there, I'm Brevard School Superintendent Desmond Blackburn, and I need to hear from you. Whether you're a parent, school employee, business person, or a senior in our amazing Legacy Club. At a town hall meeting near you, I'll share the latest on how our schools are performing based on what the community has already asked for. Then I'll ask you, what's next? What does your child or grandchild need most to succeed? What does your business or agency need in a high school graduate? How can our schools better support quality of life in your neighborhood? I will listen carefully, and I know your school board will too.
Hi, I'm Matt Susan, your school board member for District 4, which includes Melbourne, West Melbourne, Rockledge, and the Vieira Suntree area. To better serve you, we need to know your needs, questions, and concerns about our public schools. So please join me at a free town hall meeting I will be hosting at Vieira High School. Mark your calendar for Thursday, September 28th from 5:30 to 7. See you there.
Welcome back to Brevard Watch. Here's a one-on-one interview with Cocoa Beach Mayor Ben Malik. In what ways do you see the city and the school district cooperating or partnering on things in the future?
Well, we have untapped waterfront resources there at the high school. So we are looking, actually we have a meeting later this month to meet with school board facilities to talk about expanding the use of that waterfront, perhaps offering some crew teams or some sort of marine science, marine biology And from as far as the city aspect, we are partnering with the schools on, we all understand the budget constraints, and it's impacted a lot of the athletic programs. So we're fortunate, we have a lot of very civic-minded organizations. I know Kiwanis helped put up the scoreboard for the football team. We're working on the track, that's a $120,000 budget gap. The elementary school, for example, we need a new playground for the kids. There's no money for that. That's $85,000. We've raised so far $30,000. So it's a nice community where everybody helps out.
Okay, we're back in the studio. Joining me today are Bill Mick, host of Bill Mick Live on WMB Radio, and Rob Landers, host of Florida Today Eye on Brevard, and also a senior editor at Florida Today. Gentlemen, let's talk about a lawsuit the Brevard Public Schools just filed in the last week or two against a Harris, not the Harris from Melbourne, but Harris School Solutions, regarding software that it bought millions of dollars years ago, still doesn't have. Good idea, bad idea, what's your take? Rob?
Go get him, Desmond. That's my take. Go get him. Get some of my money back.
As a taxpayer, you're saying that?
Taxpayer, get some of my money back. Yeah, this needed to happen. I think that the school district has been very patient. I think that Dr. Blackburn, in interviews that I have heard him have with you before you stepped into this role, interviews that he's had with Florida Today's Caroline Glenn, he has said over and over again that the school district has been trying to reach some kind of settlement with this company, and time again, this company said, yes, we're working with you, we're there for you, we're trying to do this, and finally, when push comes to shove, we still don't have the holy grail of software as it was pitched by Superintendent Bingley years ago. And it's time. It's time to cut bait and go fish, and I'm glad that we're fishing this way.
Bill, your take.
It's time to recover what they can. I think you're right, Rob, that the lawsuit is probably the only way to go. When Harris bought out EDR, the company that had made all these grandiose promises about this software being the next best thing since sliced bread, they bought the liabilities as well as the assets of that company. This is a glaring liability. The school board has paid $5.9 million, according to the most recent Florida Today report, and gotten 40% of the $8 million product. Sorry, that's way too much money to spend. They are still existing on the old software, the green screen stuff, that apparently is still doing a job because you got a paycheck last time, right?
It still works, but it's like playing the old Pong game, like maybe the color version of Pong, but it still beeps like Pong even. It's just very, very old.
Slow.
You have to know a lot of codes. You have to type things in. Things do function.
It would be a good idea. Horrible way it was presented, and like you said, Brian Bingley and Judy Preston, who was in charge of pushing this on the old school board, came to them in emergency mode saying, if you don't spend $8 million now, it's going to be 16 by the time we get it done. Spend it. Never telling anybody that Dr. DePatri, the former superintendent, and other former employees of Brevard Schools were working for EDR. There's a dirty deal here somewhere, and as much as I love Wayne Ivey and appreciate what he does with and for the citizens of this community, that investigation was weak. There were holes in that you could drive a Mack truck through. When you let Brian Bingley respond to the investigation by email and you don't fly to Texas and put a subpoena in his hand, there's a problem. I would have set him down, I'd have read him his rights and said, we're looking at a criminal matter and you're going to talk to us, or you're going to be the target of the investigation. And that was never done. I'm sorry, get the money back you can, go with the lawsuit, that's fine, but the criminal elements of this have passed, and they were former employees of this school board.
Well, by way of full disclosure, I do work for the school district, and I did write the press release that announced that we were doing this and did talk to the attorney to make sure that we were clear on the facts with that. And the analogy that I would draw to some of the people that feel like, hey, you're being mean to this new company that came in to try to fix the software and couldn't, is that when Bank of America and Wells Fargo bought a couple of mortgage companies back during the run-up of the economy, or took over these failing companies, they also assumed the liability, not just the income for the mortgages. Yeah. So when it turned out that there was a lot of fraud that went into those mortgages, they wound up paying settlements of billions of dollars between the two companies. Does that mean that Wells Fargo or Bank of America are evil companies? I don't think so. It just means that that's business in the United States.
Wells Fargo proved that later in other matters, but yeah.
When you do a merger or acquisition and you take over somebody's contract, because you think you're going to get value and money and income out of that contract, you also assume the responsibility for making sure that the product gets delivered here. And that's not what happened. The question is, do we have the contract and the case to make in court, literally, to get some sort of settlement back and get a down payment on a new system? Question for you, Rob.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's, there's been some comments in Florida Today stories and the like saying, well, poor Harris, you should be going after and prosecuting and suing people from the past, people who might have been bad decisions or the old company.
Well, the old company doesn't exist anymore. It is now part of Harris. So absolutely they should be going after Harris for this contract. And like Bill said, the criminal investigation was done. How well it was done, I can't speak to that. I'm not a former cop like Bill is, and don't read through those investigations with the same eye that he does. If there are people that were involved with this deal and knew it was a shady deal, or knew that former supervisors or colleagues were benefiting from this, then they should absolutely go after them. And even if they are retired, well, they're still collecting a pension from the state, and that's another way of the taxpayers recouping their money. I absolutely think that we need to do everything we can to recoup as much money as we can.
Well, nobody has apologized for the past or the bad actors. I think Desmond Blackburn has said, to be generous, people were too trusting here and went for a pitch from this software company, and they certainly couldn't
Although
deliver.
former school board member Amy Nisi did apologize for her vote and did request the investigation. So
And school board member John Craig flat out said, we messed this up.
he wasn't on the board at that
He
time.
wasn't on the board at the time. The only current member that's still on the board is Andy Ziegler. But the current board is all looking at this kind of like, what did we do? How did we do this?
Sure.
How did we get here? And in that meeting where the audit was called, John Craig said, we messed this up. I don't care how long we've been dealing with this company.
I don't think those feelings have changed any, having been in conversations with school board members here in Viera. I think they're all pretty much in consensus that pursuing this lawsuit and trying to get some value back for taxpayers and getting out of the contract that we have is the right way to go. Let's move on to a more, maybe a little less heavy of a story here. Central Florida airports are battling over the name Orlando. Who should be allowed to use the word Orlando with their airport? USA Today reports that officials with the primary Orlando airport say the use of the name Orlando by other airports confuses travelers who think that they might be flying to Orlando, but instead end up dozens of miles away. Orlando,
Dozens of miles.
At the same time,
What time? Hour and a half.
Orlando Melbourne Airport manager Greg Donovan, his comment was, if it was truly a confusion factor, we would have people showing up at my office on a regular basis, missing their flights, having problems with family, missing them at the wrong airport, and that simply doesn't happen. Which begs the question, what is the real harm to the OIA, to the Orlando Airport in Orlando, of having Melbourne call itself Melbourne Orlando, or Sanford calling itself the Orlando Sanford Airport? Bill?
Orlando Sanford is reasonable. You're less than a hop, skip, and a jump. You're maybe a hop from Orlando in Sanford. It is reasonable that they are reasonably close together. Here, you're an hour and 15 minutes away from anywhere you want to be in Orlando. And if you're given directions to the Melbourne Airport, unless you're leaving Orlando, the word Orlando doesn't come from your mouth. It is in Melbourne, period. When the airport director here tries to stretch it and say, well, runway 9A is only 30 miles on a direct line from the closest Orlando zip code, dude, it's still an hour away. You're being deceptive. You're not being honest. Embrace who we are. Let's rename the airport. Let's rename it. I know we've got a Space Coast Airport already. Melbourne Space Coast International Airport. And let's try working on being an airport instead of the best landlord in the community, because they're really good at being a landlord. They've got great tenants and they're doing great things with their tenants at those properties, whether it's Embraer or Northrop Grumman or anyone else that rents from the airport. But you're a land manager, you're not an airport. You want to be an airport? Get some flights in here that take you somewhere besides Atlanta and Charlotte. Give me my direct flight to Charleston, West Virginia back. So every flight you take out of Melbourne, $100 more than what if you took it out of Orlando, either of the Orlando airports. So come on, let's stop being deceptive. Orlando, Melbourne means nothing. Now, Orlando International has its own problems. We're not Orlando's beach. They advertise Tampa as Orlando's beach. So how about you give us the beeline back? Or you start being honest about where you are, that Brevard County is Orlando's beach, and how about helping us advertise there? You want to get on an even playing field, let's talk. Both of these folks are being deceptive, and it's a bunch of nonsense.
Rom, you're a Broadway fan. I know you do some traveling. Have you ever flown back to the region from New York, gotten out, thought you were home, and been, where am I?
No, never, ever. Ever.
That surprises me out of Rob, but okay.
So a couple things. One, I completely agree with Bill that this is absolutely ridiculous if Orlando is going to call Port Canaveral Orlando's port, and we rename the Beeline Expressway to the Beachline Expressway because that's the easy way for Orlando residents to get to the beach. There's no reason why we can't call it the Orlando Melbourne International Airport. And I will further go on and say that I was flying back from Charlotte 2 weeks ago. I went to Pensacola to visit my dad, and of course, you can't get a direct flight back from Pensacola. You have to fly through Charlotte to get back. I was flying from Charlotte to Orlando. There were people that had missed an earlier flight that were going out on a cruise from Port Canaveral and were worried about making their connection to get down to get on the boat. And American Airlines said, well, we can fly you into Melbourne. And these people were like, wait, where is Melbourne? They were completely confused by where Melbourne was. It wasn't that they were flying to an alternate Orlando airport. They were flying to Melbourne. There was no confusion about that.
Which, by the way, is farther away from the port than Orlando International.
Right. But the airline was trying to get them relatively close as fast as they could.
But isn't this really about search engines? Isn't this really about the person booking the flight?
To me, this is all about the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority saying, nope, we don't want you marketing Melbourne because we're trying to market Orlando.
Oh, I see.
Well, and that's a good point. But let's remember, 49 million passengers through Orlando International every year, 500,000 through Melbourne every year. And when they started this Orlando Melbourne International thing, which is absolutely ridiculous, their web hits went up 1,000% or something. But did their passengers increase? No. You got to bring planes in to bring more passengers. Come on.
See, there's this thing at Florida Today that we like to talk about called brand recognition. And if you've got people that are Googling Orlando and they see Orlando Melbourne, then they're putting the Space Coast on the radar of these people who might one day want to come back and take a vacation. Does it really make that big of a difference to the Orlando International Airport that it's called the Orlando Melbourne International Airport? No. 4.9 million passengers every year. We're not taking people away from them. Obviously, because we don't have the planes apparently, according to Bill.
We don't?
You can still catch a flight out, and quite frankly, I'd pay the $100 extra because it's a convenience fee. It's a convenience for me to fly back into my hometown and be 5 minutes away from my house rather than an hour away from my house.
When it's your family of four, is that much easier to do? I don't think so. $400 extra each way? Come on.
Yeah, the weird thing is about this issue is that usually the marketing of those perimeter airports, like Melbourne, maybe Daytona, Sanford, is that they go hand in hand with those discount airlines. You know, you agree to fly a Spirit or an Allegiant to Latrobe instead of Pittsburgh because you're going to get a discount ticket. You don't mind the extra little drive.
Absolutely.
We haven't gotten that here at Melbourne. We have the airlines that we have. Where are those?
That's why I fly Sanford and Orlando International, because I can get closer to home that way.
Well, we had them and they left.
When the flights aren't canceled, right?
Right.
All right, let's move on. Port Canaveral. We all know this is an economic engine. Is it on the right track? Is it on the wrong track? I want to get your take on this. This year, it could hit a milestone where the Canaveral Port Authority, the government agency, could hit revenue of $100 million. It's a big deal for the port. Look at where the revenue comes from. 60% from cruise ships, 18% from cruise ship parking, non-ship revenue from things like land leases and the park attendance, 13%, cargo, 8%, but growing. Seem about right to you?
It's time that the port embraces just exactly what it is. 60% of that revenue coming from cruise ships. Become a destination port. Now that's going to require some cooperation. You're going to have cooperation from Cape Canaveral and from Cocoa Beach. Cocoa Beach has a little bit of a problem right now in that they're bringing attractions right there beside the pier, but they want them shut down at 8 o'clock at night.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. So, but unless these people develop a mindset that tourism is what we want, then the port's left on its own. If it can cooperate with those two cities, it can be a great tourist destination for people for a day or an overnight coming on that cruise ship for its first port of call. I think there's a ship that comes out of Baltimore, and this is the first place they stop. It could be a great place for them to stop and have a great time on their first day off of the boat, but embrace it and be that. You know, people, we don't want to see your frogs at the port. Why not? Yeah, we do. You want those tourists to drop their dollars here before they get to somewhere in the Caribbean that they're going to drop those dollars anyway. So have touristy things for them to do, have knickknacks for them to purchase and take home, and remember their time on the Space Coast. NASA needs a booth down there. The restaurants and the bars need to have a presence there, and you need some tourist shops to make it really touristy. And go to Myrtle Beach, learn what running a destination is about, and have touristy things to do, because if they want to embrace it, it can be great.
But the new port CEO definitely made a conscious decision to take a break on that, pull back on some of that development of an amphitheater where we're going to have big shows. The shopping and the high-end things.
Well, high-end shopping was a really stupid idea. It's not going to happen. Your cruise passenger's already spent his high-end dollars. He wants to spend knick-knack money. He wants to spend memorabilia money. He's not going to come down and buy the $500 dress or the $1,000 dress. No, that's bad idea.
Right. You're not. My wife getting off a cruise ship in Port Canaveral is not going to buy a Coach bag in Port Canaveral. She'll buy it on the boat, so she doesn't have to pay the royalty, the duties in the duty-free zone. But Bill is right. The port. If the port wants to proceed, then we need to move forward with something that's going to make people want to stay in Cape Canaveral and spend money in Cape Canaveral rather than getting off the boat and on their day excursion shuttle over to Disney. Which, for people from Baltimore, and this might be the one chance they get to come to Florida, and so that's what they're going to do anyway. For people that have already been to Disney and have done Disney and are tired of Disney, give them something to do while they're in port. There's nothing to do right now other than, kind of sit and look at the other boats. The high-end amphitheater and the concert thing, it's kind of been done. I agree with Bill in that maybe not Myrtle Beach, but go look at some of the ports in the Bahamas that have realized that this is where their money is coming from, that have gone in and have set up really nice kind of destination spots right at the end of the dock, so that when you get off the boat, you are hit with knickknacks for days that kind of represent that community.
And regional food.
Yeah.
That will make a big difference for folks. I mean, people will come here just for the seafood.
Right.
Well, again, those numbers that I just pointed out, those were for revenue for the Canaveral Port Authority. I think if you look at the economy and how it's affecting, I think that cruise industry is multiples more in terms of the actual dollars coming in and out of the area. Cape Canaveral, the city, is looking pretty good right now. New City Hall. Cape View Elementary, I think, was a D, or was one of the two schools in Brevard County that jumped 2 grades. Lots of new stuff on campus. Things are kind of looking up for Cape Canaveral.
I will also talk to my friend Bill here, and who is the history buff that likes that flag so much. But
Florida,
we could sell those at the port.
Brevard County absolutely needs to learn from its history as well, and the cargo aspect at the port absolutely is something that they need to focus on. They've got to diversify. If we didn't learn anything from the shuttle era, where we were all shuttle, this county has to diversify, and the port has to diversify where their money is coming from. If the economy tanks and people stop taking cruises, then there's going to be less cruise revenue coming in. So I think a little bit of diversification is probably a really good idea for them.
Don't disagree with you. The cargo aspect of what can happen at the port is a good idea. But right now, we need to take advantage of the situation we're in. Make hay while the sun's shining, right? And we've got more ships coming in. We have an opportunity to capture more of those people, not just their dollars, but their imaginations. Oh, I didn't get to go to the Space Center last time I was there. Or we didn't really go get to enjoy Cocoa Beach while we were there. And they've got all those great mini golf things, and they've got those great places to eat. Let's embrace tourism or run away from it. Pick one. Let's do it.
When we come back, SpaceX CEO Elon Musk is getting people excited about human spaceflight from the Cape again. And right across the bridge, there's some exciting announcements for Titusville, or as we call it around BPS, True North. We'll see you in a moment.
Hi there, I'm Brevard School Superintendent Desmond Blackburn, and I need to hear from you. Whether you're a parent, school employee, business person, or a senior in our amazing Legacy Club. At a town hall meeting near you, I'll share the latest on how our schools are performing based on what the community has already asked for. Then I'll ask you, what's next? What does your child or grandchild need most to succeed? What does your business or agency need in a high school graduate? How can our schools better support quality of life in your neighborhood? I will listen carefully, and I know your school board will too.
Hi, I'm Matt Susan, your school board member for District 4, which includes Melbourne, West Melbourne, Rockledge, and the Viera Suntree area. To better serve you, we need to know your needs, questions, and concerns about our public schools. So please join me at a free town hall meeting I will be hosting at Viera High School. Mark your calendar for Thursday, September 28th from 5:30 to 7. See you there.
All right, we're back, and gentlemen, I want to get your fashion sense now. CEO Elon Musk of SpaceX went to Instagram recently to reveal the first looks at the new spacesuit that I guess they'll be either private astronauts or NASA astronauts might be flying up to the space station or on wherever the Dragon capsule for SpaceX is going to go. Now, it looks a little bit different than the old big bulky Apollo or even the shuttle spacesuits did. A little sleeker. Style impressions, Rob?
They look like something out of the movie Contact. They really do. They're cool. Again, not your dad's, astronaut spacesuit, but yeah, they I mean, as long as they're getting the job done and they're keeping people alive, then
Generational difference in perception. My first thought, absent the orange color, 2001: A Space Odyssey. The helmet looks like those helmets, and it's sleek. I like it. I had a listener text me and said, Power Rangers, does it come in red or yellow?
That's exactly what that helmet looks like. Where's the Pink Ranger? Is she popping out?
Power Ranger. Well, Jessica Saggio from Florida Today said that it looks like a stormtrooper. Is that fair?
No, it does not look like a stormtrooper. Jessica, I love you, but no, that's not accurate at all.
If it did, I'd like it. No, I do like it as it is. If it looked like a stormtrooper, I'm okay with that. Sure, let's go.
I'd actually be a little bit more okay with it if it looked like a stormtrooper, but no, the stormtrooper is like that hard plastic and has like the knobby joints, almost like the movie Red Planet, where they had these bulky joints on the elbows and the knees.
Yeah.
And even the helmet isn't right for a stormtrooper.
Not quite. I have a concern. And it was in Elon Musk's text, right? He said it was difficult to balance function and aesthetics. I'm sorry, if I'm the astronaut wearing the suit, it better be 100% about function. I mean, we're talking about living here.
Now, Bill, you are not the one who is stuck on that capsule with 2 or 3 other people for months at a time, potentially, if you're going to Mars.
You look so bland in that white suit.
You want to make things as pleasant as possible in those capsules.
I will agree with Bill there. If I'm on that Dragon capsule and I'm going to be up there for 2 or 3 months, it better be functional. Like, it better keep every micro meteorite that might puncture that capsule and come into my suit. Yeah, it better keep me safe from that. It better be like resealing if something happens to that suit.
When the creator says a difficult balance between function and aesthetics, it's like, dude, let somebody else create it, okay? Please, step away. Just give them the money and let them do it. They'll know what they're doing. Right. I hope it looks good. I really do.
Well, it does look good. I hope it works.
I only saw from here up in the photo, right?
I really hope it works. I do. I mean, double vacuum tested. I get it. That's great.
Guys, we're potentially just a year away from seeing these suits in action, and that's what's exciting here. And not only them, but Boeing also getting ready to put astronauts up. Boeing released their suit a year or so ago, so they're ready. We're back on the verge of manned space flight on the Space Coast. That's the exciting part, and that'll tie back into the tourism thing we were talking about earlier. Absolutely, make it happen.
I'm very excited. I mean, I saw this today. It's making space fun again. It's putting the human drama, and let's face it, it's suspenseful as heck to watch people ride big fire up into the sky. I mean, that is something that we haven't had around here for a long time. I was impressed that it wasn't a mock-up, that this was an actual functioning spacesuit that they are testing and then they're going to use. Absolutely. I guess I'm just a little bit surprised. I mean, having seen plenty of other space helmets out there in popular culture, I was thinking maybe Boba Fett, that little bit sleeker thing from Star Wars, or the Daft Punk guys have pretty cool looking.
This is a sleeker helmet. I mean, this is very much in line with like Robonaut 2, which is on the space station now, with the very angular kind of face mask, and not the rounded, that the astronauts were wearing on the shuttle when they go out and fix Hubble.
It goes
that
really.
John Glenn wore when he went up for the first time. Come on.
And they've showed off
the second.
Yeah.
The inside of the Dragon capsule is looking also totally different.
It's like the inside of an Embraer jet. Like, that is luxury you're flying in with SpaceX.
I think they're going to be flying with like iPads or something
Yeah.
instead of a gazillion switches, which is...
Well, I mean, this has as much computing power as all the computers that were on Apollo 11. So, I mean...
More room to float around
right.
and have fun with
And when you're on
things in zero gravity.
Let's go into Mars. You're going to want that room to move around.
Yeah, it's exciting where the plans are going, and if this suit is functional as it should be, and it's comfortable, I mean, you're talking, that needs to be a part of it too, because you are talking an interminable amount of time in space. They're talking, the story today in Florida today didn't say Mars exploration, it said colonization. You're talking about living in something for a while.
I think the spirit that's being captured back at Kennedy Space Center is that tempo and spirit of innovation, experimentation. Watching the SpaceX, those boosters land again, totally exciting. The sonic booms, even the sonic booms that they're creating on purpose to experiment, to maybe create things like that. Again, Boeing, the old space companies, are stepping up and competing with the Starliner capsule and other things.
That's what competition does. It
Love
makes you step up. So,
let's move down A1A a little ways to a topic that you brought up just a little while ago, Bill, to Cocoa Beach, to the fabulous and historic Cocoa Beach Pier, where a group of residents is circulating a petition to reverse a city council decision to allow the owners of the pier to install 3 amusement park type rides there. There will be a carousel, something called the Tornado, and a more of a tower type of a ride called the Drop and Twist. The argument usually is that it doesn't fit into the character of the neighborhood and might create some kind of issues with drawing riffraff, whatever. What is that neighborhood, and do you see these rides really being that disruptive to the place? Bill?
Like the port, Cocoa Beach needs to decide what it wants to be. If you're going to be a tourist destination, if you're going to be the world's most famous beach, be that for a reason. Be that because you're drawing tourists there and giving them something to do. The original plan to shut this down at 8 o'clock at night is ridiculous. It should go at least till 10, maybe 11 most nights, and on the weekends, let them go till midnight. Let people come and enjoy the beach for what it is and add these amenities that continue to draw people here. That it's not going to hurt anybody. Well, I bought over here because it's nice and quiet. Well, congratulations, the world changes. You bought in a tourist area, you should know what to expect. It's like people who buy next to a baseball field and wonder why fly balls land in their yard. Because you're next to a baseball field. You're next to the ocean for a reason in an area that touts itself as a tourist destination. Be that, or ban them all. Tear the pier down. Let's just forget it. Ron Johns can leave. Go wherever you want them to. We're not going to be the tourist destination. One or the other. Find it.
well, I think you're making the point for those people that live in those condos. Cocoa Beach needs to make up its own mind. Is it going to be a tourist destination or not? These people bought condos in these places because when they bought those condos, wasn't really a tourist destination. Now a new owner has come in on the port and wants to put these amusement rides in. I'm kind of with the homeowners. Look, it wasn't there when I bought my house. I liken it to the people who, I-95 has been there for as long as it has, and now there's communities that are being built closer and closer to I-95, and now these people are demanding, the sound barrier walls to go up.
Yeah,
well,
that's nuts.
the interstate was there before you bought, okay? Yeah. The pier was there before I bought my condo too. But there weren't amusement park rides there until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'm kind of happy with the city of Cocoa Beach and saying, okay, we'll shut it down at 8. It seemed like a happy compromise for the people who were living close to the pier and for the company that wants to bring them in. What I'm less excited about is the fact that these are basically carnival rides. These are portable. And what we saw in, I believe it was Ohio earlier this year, portable also means collapsible. So I'm not a big fan of carnival rides, regardless of where they are. So you're putting those at one of the most popular beaches in Brevard County. I have the safety concern there, but turning them off at 8 o'clock at night, well, if I got to turn my lights off in my condo and the street lights have to be turned off at 8 o'clock because of the sea turtles nesting, then those rides have to be shut down at 8 o'clock too. So
Shut the bars and restaurants then too then.
At least the bars and restaurants have to dim their lights as well.
It is true that the pier is in an area of Cocoa Beach that does have more residential around it. It has more condos and that kind of thing. On the other hand, that pier has sure been there for a long, long time. There's no doubt at all about what that pier is and who it attracts. Lots and lots of tourists. A roller coaster, now that would be loud. You'd have the screaming, you'd have the rushing sound. I used to live near one in an old neighborhood in Denver when I was very young, and they'd sit there listening to the screams at night. I thought it was charming, not everybody did. It's a good thing they're not putting that there. But Cocoa Beach is a funny place because they have run out before gas stations, for example. And I remember reading about, it was a racetrack or something that was going to be on A1A. The neighborhood was up in arms. They ran out the racetrack. I went up to take a look at it. It was right across the street from a giant red checkerboarded t-shirt shop. And I'm wondering, what was it about that lot that was so different from all the other crazy Technicolor stuff around there? And don't people in Cocoa Beach need gas too? But
well,
growing pains.
I for those residents, I mean, the sound from the music from the carousel alone, playing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, would be enough to make me want to slit my wrist. I mean, it just yeah. I mean, I've done
another reason to be for it. No,
yeah.
I gotta have you guys in again.
I can't imagine having to listen to the organ grinder music of that carousel. You know, I'm sitting in my living room trying to watch football, you know, and do over and over and over again as, you know, moms are taking their kids on this carousel. It just I can't imagine, you know, more misery when I'm trying to relax in my home. Or someone screaming. I mean, you know that there's going to be screams. It might not be a roller coaster, but the ride's called the Tornado. I mean, it's not like it's, you know, a summer breeze. It's the Tornado. There's going to be people screaming on this thing. Mm-hmm. Whether there's justification to scream or not, they're going to be screaming on this thing. And you're going to be hearing that in your living room. I mean, that's not something that I, you know.
Well, at least it will be different from the most exciting thing happening around the pier is who fell off of it today. You know, that's not the entertainment we're looking for. I'm glad they're spending money on the pier. I'm glad to see that they're putting money into it. But again, decide your identity. If you're going to be a tourist area, be one and embrace it. Go to Myrtle Beach and see what it's like because they do it well. They bring people to the Grand Strand all the time. And if you're going to be a tourist area, have maybe not the amusement rides. There's one part of Myrtle Beach where they do have the amusement park and those kind of things. Seclude it to an area. Put it down behind Ron John's if you want to, you know, good idea there.
20 is a perfect place.
Absolutely. Now, but also have the other things in play. Have bars where there are quality bands playing. I mean, Alabama was discovered in Myrtle Beach. Think about this. Locations where quality entertainment exists. And be the entertainment area you can be. Work with the port in that regard. Run shuttles up there and bring those folks down and let them see what we've got. Be the tourist area or, yeah, shut it down.
I mean, let's just take the space and build a parking garage if you're worried about making money. I mean, because you can parking fees alone in a parking garage in that tiny little space in front of the port, you'd make money because people are always looking for places to park to go to the beach right next to the port. So build a parking garage. It's quiet.
All right, let's cross a bridge and go up US 1 a little ways to Titusville. There seems to be a lot going on in Titusville, for Titusville. It's been a long time since CBS featured Titusville as a place that had basically cratered after the shuttle left. The old mall scraped off and replaced. That took some time. Brevard Public Schools looking at reopening South Lake Elementary School up there as a choice school. And the EDC announced a couple of pretty good little job announcements up there. One of them is AstroPac, which bought Chemco, a local company, and it's going to renovate a 40,000 square foot industrial building on Grissom Parkway out in the west part of town into clean rooms for high-tech work. About 17 new jobs, but lots of room to grow as a result of this move. Downtown, another company called Red Canyon Software is going to renovate and move into a historic hotel and bank building downtown. About 20 jobs. But at both, you know, it's not just happening in office parks. It's happening downtown, and things seem to be picking up there. I don't know. Is it just me, or does Titusville seem to be back?
Well, I will tell you this. Okay, so early July, I started rehearsals for Shrek the Musical at Titusville Playhouse. It is the first time I've ever done a show at Titusville Playhouse. It is also the first time I have spent any amount of time in Titusville. And I used to be one of those people that would give Titusville a really hard time just because it was Titusville. I mean, it's like, you know, it's so far north that it might as well be Daytona. Titusville is a beautiful little town. It is a great place to just go and hang out. There is a lot of really interesting things happening there. Playa Linda Brewing Company is in. Great place to go and just grab a beer or a cider. The Bricks Project, which is also Playa Linda Brewing Company, has got this new gastro pub vibe going on. It is starting to find little ways to kind of catch up to other places in Brevard County. And it's not this sleepy little city anymore. Like it's starting to wake up and dust the sand from its eyes. Sandpoint Park, Spaceview Park, again, before this summer, had never been to them. I'm like, holy cow, this is awesome. I mean, it's just it's a nice little downtown area to hang out. And you know, if we're pulling people from Orlando, because I know that Bill's about to call it Orlando, because that's what people in Titusville call it, is Orlando's bedroom community. You know, if they want to call it Orlando, let them call it Orlando. If I'm going to live in Titusville, if I'm going to work in or I'm going to work in Orlando and want to live in Titusville, that's not a bad option for me, because Titusville's not a bad place to live. I wouldn't mind living there at all. That's a nice little spot in Brevard.
Bill, some of these announcements have been happening up there, including some of the space stuff going on at the Cape. And I'm not sure if Knights Armament was part of this. They've been in there for some time. But there's been some very official efforts, including the North Brevard Economic Zone, the Economic Development Commission, as I mentioned, involved with this. Good, bad, different, your take?
Given my differences on how the EDC and the North Brevard Economic Development Zone operate, I have some big disagreements with how they do this. I think it is good for the city of Titusville and for the people in that community. My youngest son lives in Titusville with his family, and I get up there every now and then, a lot more than I used to. And Rob, you're right. Beautiful Riverside Drive on US 1, and an opportunity to go out and have great restaurants. The boardwalk and dock area there, beautiful, absolutely great riverside views. It's just amazing, and it's a community that I would like to see come back. My problem exists with how the North Brevard Economic Development Zone operates, how the Economic Development Commission operates here in the county. But if they're going to be operating, we'd better be seeing results like this, or they're wasting their time and they're wasting a lot of taxpayer money. So I'm glad to see it occurring. I have one other question. Are you typecast as Fiona?
No, I'm actually one of the little pigs.
Are you really?
Yes, I am. I'm the brick pig in Shrek the Musical. You have one more opportunity to catch us this weekend, so I'm just throwing that out there.
Very good.
Actually, 3 opportunities.
Was it Lord Farquhar?
Oh, wait, there's a lot. There's a lot of episodes. Yeah, hang on. You're gonna have to cut this. All right, so there's actually a Thursday night, a Friday night, 2 Saturday performances, and a Sunday performance, and you can find out more information on that at TitusvillePlayhouse.com. But anyway, moving on from that. There is, Titusville has a lot of potential. There is a lot of space for companies to move into and redo. And it is. Bill is absolutely right. It is a beautiful drive into that city. And there is something that when I'm driving into Titusville, the child in me starts jumping up and down, because you can just look out over the river and see the VAB and see where manned space flight began. I mean, it's just right there. All of that history is just right there across the river. It's so beautiful to look at.
If it weren't so far away from my office, I would live there. It's a beautiful community. It really is.
And there's so much potential. There's so much potential.
And you're just right there, and good folks. So.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we could leave this on a happy note. Gentlemen, let's all go to Titusville. As a matter of fact, I'm heading north to do, we're going to be planning some town hall meetings in the northern part of the county with Superintendent Desmond Blackburn. And yeah, getting to know some of the people from Titusville coming in onto Brevard Watch, including Rita Pritchett, the county commissioner from the north part of that county, coming up pretty soon. Bill, Mick, Rob Landers, thank you so much for joining us in the BPS studio. We hope to have you on again soon.
Thank you, Matt. Enjoyed it.
Hi there, I'm Brevard School Superintendent Desmond Blackburn, and I need to hear from you. Whether you're a parent, school employee, business person, or a senior in our amazing Legacy Club. At a town hall meeting near you, I'll share the latest on how our schools are performing based on what the community has already asked for. Then I'll ask you, what's next? What does your child or grandchild need most to succeed? What does your business or agency need in a high school graduate? How can our schools better support quality of life in your neighborhood? I will listen carefully, and I know your school board will too.
Hi, I'm Matt Susan, your school board member for District 4, which includes Melbourne, West Melbourne, Rockledge, and the Viera Suntree area. To better serve you, we need to know your needs, questions, and concerns about our public schools. So please join me at a free town hall meeting I will be hosting at Vieira High School. Mark your calendar for Thursday, September 28th from 5:30 to 7. See you there.